What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Tides of Annihilation and that Mere Combat gameplay trailer we got today from Xbox. This thing is incredible. Honestly, it took me a couple. I rewatched it a few times because I actually feel like you pick something up a little bit different, or something you don't see maybe the first time, you see it the second time. In a lot of ways, does it look kind of similar to things we've seen before? I can see the Stellar Blade stuff. I think that was kind of apparent even from the announcement trailer. You see a lot of people talking about even maybe say Devil May Cry or FromSoft, kind of the Elden Ring type formula. And by the way, these are not to say that these are any kind of negatives. This looks like a mix-up of a lot of really excellent games and a lot of their styles, kind of put into one. I even think I saw one YouTube comment, which I was thinking this. I thought, Stellar Blade, I can't see the DMC, if you kind of look for it. But somebody mentioned this is what Lost Soul Aside was supposed to be. And I was thinking the same thing. It gives off, I think, a visual kind of presentation, and you think about kind of the quick, action-y type, like, flare sequences that Lost Soul, and by the way, Lost Soul Aside, I think, did the gameplay better than anything else that game did. I actually thought it was rock solid. You actually do see a lot of that here. So, okay, enough of just saying it's all of these other games. It definitely reminds you of other games, but one thing I want to talk about upon watching it a few times, I'm really impressed by a few tricks, if you want to call them that. A couple of tricks that this game pulls that I think are really cool. There's a couple sequences where this boss will almost like at a snap of a finger, right? It's kind of like an action sequence. And there'll be some sort of device, she'll push you back or she'll swing something. And the entire map has suddenly just shifted into something else. And they do that a couple different times in the battle that I just thought was something that you don't see often or maybe see at all. One really cool part of it that I really like, so they put up barriers a lot, right? Like in the very beginning, there's kind of, in fact, I think the character or the person playing the character runs into the barrier on purpose to show you, okay, you can't get through it, right? So you're relying on your ally to do a lot of the damage through the barrier, and then through the help of, really it's that spear, right? Like it keeps coming up throughout the gameplay. You're able to shatter that barrier, right? And I love the idea of almost you interacting, because you're dodging, right? You're doing all of this stuff on your own, but then you're also kind of watching this epic freaking battle take place on almost the other side of like a universe. And then the second half of it is the mirror on the ground. And I thought that was just the coolest thing. That, to me, is my favorite part of this entire gameplay thing is, the enemy is underneath the ground, right? Like inside it. And you have to dodge because she'll send like her clones through the ground, to you, through into you, And so you'll have to dodge it, but then you send that spearman type guy, right? And you can actually see him through this mirror thing on the floor beating her up, and she'll get the enemy, the boss, will get shot up through the ground, through the mirror into like your dimension, and then you're able to hit her. I just thought that was and I would call it a trick. That's something that you don't see all that often. You think about, really, I think the games in the Series X and PS5 kind of life cycle, right, is kind of about being able to switch scenes really fast, right? Like the super fast SSD, you go back to like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and it really is just expanded from there. The idea that at a snap of a finger, you can have something totally different happening than what was just happening a second ago, or kind of a flex, things that were just not possible with like the PS4 and Xbox One era and before. You'd have loading screens. You wouldn't be able to do it in a seamless boss fight. Even a thing like SpongeBob, the new one, Titans of the Tide, right? Even that game does it, where you're going through dimensions and all of a sudden you're in a brand new area, split second, and you just factually could not do that 6 years ago, 7 years ago. But look, at the same time, we actually have seen a lot of those tricks before. Like SpongeBob does it, like Ratchet and Clank does it, which does it like a few other, games are kind of doing some samey things with like, okay, snap of a finger, we're going to change something. And look, there's only so many ways you can do it. But this just kind of being a seamless part of the boss fight. And look, I would say the beginning part with them kind of fighting beyond a barrier, that's not original. That's not new. We've seen that before. It's cool. I think you can get a feel of how the gameplay is going to be. It's very snappy. It's dodge oriented. It's parrying oriented. You got different almost magnitudes of fighting. You're kind of fighting her when she's like human form, but when she's in her, like Goliath thing, you have to rely on the ally. Now you rely on the ally at first, but then actually you kind of take his power, and now suddenly you're able to transcend, and you're able to do those attacks while also still dodging, parrying, all that jazz, right? And this kind of like really big scope, this really big scale. So all that stuff looks good. Look, even the things that look samey look really, really cool, right? But then it's all right, well, what does this game kind of bring that's original? And to me, right now, seeing 5 minutes, and it's one boss. It's 5 minutes, we have to see the rest of the game. I would assume / hope they do even more than just this, which would be awesome. But you see those kind of tricks, I would call them camera tricks, but they're not. I mean, they're literally systematic tricks where, she's underneath the ground and you're relying on something that's not necessarily you, and she freaking shoots up through the floor, and now she's kind of yours for the taking. I just think that's such a neat idea that I don't know how many times have I seen that in a game. Very few, if at all. I don't even know. I'm just kind of saying that. That's kind of just a formality at this point. I don't think I have seen that before. I don't play every game under the sun, though, right? So it is kind of hard to, you don't want to say it's never been done, because maybe it honestly has and we just don't know. But it feels original. It looks original, and that's what I'm really impressed by in this gameplay. So they nailed it to me. Obviously, we still have a while to go. Although when this whole thing was announced for the Xbox event today, I think I saw a lot, because I forget, because I see so many games, that come out. I forgot that I guess they are targeting 2026. I didn't really know that or pay attention to it, one of the two. I would love for this thing to come out next year. Here's the one thing. Actually, let's end it on a negative. Let's go a little negative. The frame rate needs help. Okay, the frame rate was pretty bad. Kind of in the beginning, I actually think it almost sorted itself out as the boss fight went, but the game was chugging, and it was chugging in a gameplay trailer. You don't like to see that, right? Because if it's chugging in a gameplay trailer, what's the whole game look like? At the same time, you can use that and kind of twist it. This is such an early in development thing. You know what I mean? They got a year potentially until this game comes out. And then, by the way, it could always get delayed, right? It could be fixed in a month from now, and we wouldn't even necessarily know that, right? But that is something to say. It doesn't look perfect. I mean, visually, it looks very, sparkly and very, very just cool, very jazzy. I did see some complaints on, Jennifer English, of course, is an amazing actress, but the face doesn't really represent her emotions. And that's true. That's true. That's kind of a 50-50 thing, though, of if it will be solved when the game comes out. That could be something that's just the artistic style. It might be very difficult to get that to match. That might just be something we have to deal with. But the frame rate stuff, the stuttering, the kind of lagging behind, that's something that it needs to be fixed. We're not going to let them get away with that. They need to fix that. I'm sure they know that. But it is something kind of worth pointing out, because it's not you, it's not your internet. The trailer actually does that a few different times, and of course you don't want that to make its way into the base game. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.